Thanks for tuning into the 6-3 podcast. I'm your host, Joel, and my co-host, Ben. We are coming down to the last couple weeks until we'll probably take an inevitable hiatus for Ben to adjust to fatherhood, as we did with me. It's quite the process. So we're going to try to cram in as much as we can, ranking Michigan players and before we get to that point. And then so today we'll do offensive tackles. And next week we'll probably do edge rushers and interior O linemen. And this week we are just doing the tackles so we can make time to rank and preview the Super Bowl players.
Sure.
So we're going to start with the Michigan offensive tackles, and I will make the first pick. Best.
How many are we doing here? We're doing 5 or 10?
10.
Okay.
Is that reasonable? I feel like there's 2 every single year, so it's like.
Yeah, I mean, there might be 2 bad ones a couple times at least. There's been 2 bad ones.
I think we'll probably have Perry Dorstein on there, but
I hope not.
I mean, he's probably like right around 10. In my list, I had him at 9 on my list, but
yeah, we'll see. We'll see
what happens. All right, so I will take the first overall pick, and quite frankly, I think that is the best offensive lineman in Michigan history since Y2K, and that is Jake Long.
Yep.
Was a tackle for Michigan from 2003 to 2007. He was a 2-time All-American, 2-time first-team All-Big Ten, Big Ten Offensive Lineman of the Year in 2006 and 7, and he was the first overall draft pick. So that just screams pure talent. And he had a good NFL career too. So
yeah, he was great. I mean, dealt with some injuries, but he was pretty darn good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was pretty unanimous. I don't think there you can go wrong there. I am going to go with Taylor Lewan second here. First round draft pick number 11. 3-time All Big Ten, first team All Big Ten, 2-time first team All American, Big Ten Offensive Lineman of the Year in 2012 and 2013. Kind of continued. There's been a tradition of really good left tackles at Michigan. I think he certainly, he certainly fits the mold. He was dominant, and he was on some bad offensive lines, and he kind of carried them for a while. So, I'll go with Taylor Lewan.
My next pick is going to be a guy that sneaks in there for 1 year because he played in 2000 and 97, and he's a former Detroit Lion as well. It is Jeff Backus.
I like Backus, yes.
Really good at Michigan. He was always just average and reliable. I think he played a ton of consecutive games. I think he's in the top 10 for most consecutive games by a position player in the NFL history. Just longevity, was healthy, reliable, was never outstanding in the NFL for sure, but he was outstanding in college. He was a 2-time first team All Big Ten in 99 and 2000, second team All Big Ten in the other 2 years that he was there. So, from freshman to senior, it's really good. Like I said, first round draft pick as well. So, like Ben said, Michigan's just got a storied history of solid left tackles in college into the NFL that translate well.
Yeah. After the top 3, it's a little bit tougher. Oh man, I don't know. Let's see here. We're just talking tackles. There's a lot of guys that were like just before 2000 as well.
Like John Runyon, you can always take his son.
Runyon was great.
His son's a decent option.
Yeah, I think he's further down the list a little bit though.
I think his son will inevitably be on this list at some point. I just don't know about now.
Yeah, I think so too. I would agree with that. I'm gonna go with Mason Cole here. I know he was back and forth from center and tackle, so if we want to count him as a center, we can. But he played a ton of tackle at Michigan.
I was initially gonna have him as interior lineman, but I mean, if it's kind of whatever goes
first. He started as a freshman at left tackle, though.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I don't know.
But I think most of his career, we're gonna look at him and judge him as a really good center.
I would say, maybe. I mean, yeah, you could say that, I guess.
I mean, technically, I'm just kind of going based off of if he doesn't go in this pick, then obviously he goes in the next one. So it's up to you. It's
Yeah, I mean, he
pure.
was a left tackle. I mean, I'll put him here. I just think he was really good as a left tackle his freshman year. I mean, yes, he's definitely not a NFL left tackle. He was probably undersized for it, but I'll put Mason Cole there. And I'll give him, some credit just for being versatile. He can move around. Um, he's one of only 5 true freshmen to start any games as a true freshman on the offensive line in Michigan history, and he started
Mhm.
the only true left tackle. I could say something about those teams, I guess he was on too, but
Right.
but he was really good. So and then eventually they moved him over to center, and he was good at center too. But I think he was a solid left tackle as well. So we'll give him there.
Good. Um, um, I felt like at the time when that line wasn't very good, I'm gonna go with a guy that felt like he was at least reliable and played his position without like too many errors. I'm gonna go with Eric Magnuson.
Yeah,
He didn't I think he made I think he was first team all Big Ten one year, and I think he was honorable mention another year. So it wasn't anything outstanding. But yeah, I mean Magnuson was just again, he was kind of like the Jeff Backus of college, just reliable there. Didn't I mean Backus made too many dumb NFL decisions. Like he held a lot. But yeah, I don't know. Magnuson just was there when the line was like not quite where it needed to be. So I think he was kind of the start. He was finishing his career at Michigan as Michigan was developing offensive linemen, basically.
yeah. I think yeah. Unfortunately, they were not very good for a while there. That's
Right. 2016 was his last one, and that was kind of like
there were some bad
midspan.
offensive line teams under Brady Hoke for a while there. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I I enjoyed. I mean, he was good. He was solid. He didn't do anything. Nothing against him at all. So, I'm gonna go with Michael Schofield
Yeah,
here.
that's a good pick. That's a good pick.
He's still in the league, right? He's playing for the
Yeah, he's
Broncos
actually
still.
still in the league. Yeah,
He's
I
playing
think
for the Broncos. I
he
think
might
he
have been a free
starts for
agent
him
this year,
too.
but he was still eligible.
Yeah, he played some. I know he played some this year. I don't think it was much, but he appeared in 52 games on the offensive line, 26 at right tackle. So we'll give him that. He played a little guard early on. He was the other tackle. He was the right tackle, and Lawan was the left tackle. Um, and all I remember about those offensive lines mostly is the fact that they had 2 above average, in Lawan's case, elite tackles and horrendous guards. So you're sitting there going, all right, I mean, you can't, it's tough to build an offensive line that way. So, yeah, we'll go with Michael Schofield there.
I think I got to give this one to John Runyon Jr.
Okay.
Um, kind of figured he'd be at 7 or 8, but
Yep.
um, I was kind of between him and another guy, and the other guy didn't. I know we shouldn't take NFL careers into consideration, but Runyon Jr. has been solid. And I feel like even at Michigan, he was. I don't think he quite
Good.
developed. Yeah, he definitely developed in the NFL more so.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously genetics, right? So we look at
Yeah.
the career his dad had as a tackle in the NFL and college, and
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I just think Runyon Jr. is probably the next guy that comes to my mind.
Yep. I'm gonna go with Jalen Mayfield here,
Oh yeah,
straight out of Grand Rapids.
that's a good one.
Yeah, I think he probably left a year early. And I know he plays more guard in the NFL, but he's definitely a tackle in college. He probably could have used one more year in college to really solidify himself, but he was a round 3 pick with the Falcons, and they still feel pretty good about where he's at. Um, he started or played in 3 games as left tackle as a true freshman, right tackle, starting right tackle, going to his sophomore year. Big Ten honorable mention, and then he following the COVID year he foregoed his eligibility. But I mean, the talent was always there. A little bit of a converted. He played tight end early in his high school career, and a lot of those guys end up being really good tackles. So, yeah, put Jalen Mayfield there.
This is a good one. I don't know why Mayfield. When I typed out my list, he didn't even make my 10, so I definitely skipped over him. I must have missed it.
Well, he had a shorter career.
Well, he still deserves it. I always looked at Mayfield as one of the more reliable guys on that.
No doubt, he was good.
Team.
I think he was sort of a, he definitely could have been on like the 2021 offensive line where he probably would have been a starting right tackle, and that could have been an even better offensive line in that scenario.
Well, I'm going to segue because I remember him being the reason I was worried about Ryan Hayes. Is he going to be able to step in? Yeah, and Ryan Hayes has stepped in. That's why Ryan Hayes is actually my next pick here. He was in our 2020 rankings. We had him 12th, and then we had him all the way up to 6th in 2021, and in 2022, to start the year, we had Ryan Hayes at 2, and then finished the year at 14 after we saw everything. So I mean, just kind of always stayed as a top 15 player on Michigan's roster since 2020, and so I think he nicely filled the position that Jalen Mayfield left there. He was a 2-time All Big Ten selection, 2nd team coaches, 3rd team media 2022, honorable mention as well. He's a 4-year letterman, part of a 2 Joe Moore Award offensive line. So I'm gonna say Ryan Hayes is definitely one of the more reliable tackles we've had too.
Yeah. Are we counting Stuber? He started all 14 games as right tackle as last year.
And I think he was drafted as a tackle, so I think I'm even more confident.
I think he played a lot at guard too, but I'm going to count Stuber here.
Yeah.
Joe Moore Award winning right tackle in 2021. The reason why I would have said it would have been nice if Jalen Mayfield would have came back for that team is you could have kicked Stuber down to guard, which is where he's probably better in general, but he was good as a right tackle. I know tackles don't have stats, but he's appeared in 34 games, 20 career starts at right tackle, 2 at right guard, 3-year letterman. He was an All-American selection, 2nd team in 2021 by the American Football Coaches Association. He was All Big Ten in 2021 as well. Really solid offensive lineman. And is he with the Patriots now?
He is with the Patriots, yep.
Yeah, Patriots. Got picked.
Patriots love Michigan players.
They do. He got picked.
7th round, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got the tackle height, and he's 6'6", 325. He just didn't have the long arms, so the arms are a little too short. But he was solid. You see that a lot with college tackles. They aren't going to be able to beat NFL tackles necessarily. They don't have that unless they have that elite trait of length and speed and all that. But Stuber could, I think he could, carve out a decent NFL career for himself. So I think he's definitely deserving to be on top 10 here.
Yeah. So honorable mention, that was 10. So honorable mentions, I thought of Logan Tully-Tillman there for a minute.
Yep.
He ended up carving out a career in the USFL and the AAF for a minute.
And didn't he do some bunch of illegal things too at one point when he transferred or something?
Sure. Yeah, I think he did. I mean, obviously he didn't finish at Michigan.
He did something bad. We won't mention it on here.
Mark Heige also came in my head. Obviously, I mentioned Perry Dorstein. He did not end up making the list. It turns out that those guys are all better.
Yeah, but Dorstein was just solid. I mean, but he was just on some bad teams,
Yeah, those were no offensive line types of years.
Yeah.
Like you kind of mentioned with Stuber and Mason Cole, just Michigan has always been able to kick guys in or kick guys out. They've had a bunch of versatile guys on offensive line.
Especially under Harbaugh.
Yeah, because we look at other guys like Onwenu and Cesar Ruiz, they all played different positions, and they'll be in next week's ranking certainly. So it's just going to be, there's, Greg Robinson even stood out. David Dawson stood out a little bit.
I think Grant Newsome would have been probably in the top 5 of this list.
I was going to say Juwan Bushell-Beatty too.
Yeah, I think Grant Newsome, had he been allowed, had he not nearly had he had his leg amputated from an injury, he would have been. He was the next really stud left tackle before he got hurt, and unfortunately, he did. So, but
Yeah.
now he's on staff. He's the tight ends coach now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think even Matt Lentz played a little bit of tackle and guard.
He did. He was
So
good.
again, and he was back in the day. I mean, he's 40 years old now. I was looking, but
Yeah, but we had
uh,
some. I mean, there's some guys on. Back. I don't know. There were some good offensive linemen back.
that's a good one. Did we even not even think of him? Let's see.
Yeah,
Let's see if he was valid. Hang on. There's uh Stenovich, Adam Stenovich.
Stanovich would have been a good one.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's going back to 2002 and
He's
three.
is he the Packers offensive coordinator now?
He is. Yeah. He was actually there 2002, 3, and 4. It
Yep.
looks like.
Yep.
So and was I think Tony Pape as
Yep.
well. So yeah, I don't know. There's a handful of guys that all made it to the NFL in some capacity, and so like you were talking about, a lot of guys that deserve recognition.
Pape was drafted by the yeah, he was round 7 to 2004. He played for the Berlin Thunder and the Amsterdam Admirals.
Oh, and you were European Football League.
He was in the NFL Europe for a while.
If it wasn't Scottish Claymores, I don't want it.
Yes.
I'm a Scottish Claymores fan through and through.
There's a cool article about the last NFL Europe game ever, the last championship game ever, and it's just hilarious to listen about how that league was run. It's so funny.
Seriously, that was my favorite part about Madden 2002. I used to be so good at like the Maddens, and from 1998, I was good at Madden 98, 99, 2000, 2001, 2002. I played all those Maddens a lot. This is like the only PS1 game that we had for a long time because I would just make sure I'd get it every Christmas.
Right.
So yeah, those are my first Maddens that I played, and I played 2002 often because it had the EFL teams.
Yeah.
And I would
04 did too. 03 and 04 did too, if I remember right.
I would challenge people and be cocky little arrogant SOB and basically be like, I will play as the Scottish Claymores, who are a 44 overall team, and you could be the Dallas Cowboys, who are an 87 overall team, and I will beat you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was just my arrogant way of
I played with some of the NFL Europe teams. It was fun.
Yeah, I wish now the NFL has to start getting like the XFL teams on there now in their current
Yeah,
days.
or maybe the USFL or whatever,
Something. Even the Canadian Football League. Let's get some Saskatchewan Rough Riders in there.
Get some Grey Cup action.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Next week we'll do interior offensive linemen and edge rushers. But yeah, this week we will move on to our Super Bowl prediction and ranking the players in the Super Bowl. And I will happily let you go first. Who is the best players in the Super Bowl?
Oh, I mean, number one, I'll go with Mahomes.
All right.
I debated actually. There's a little bit of debate, depends on how much, but Mahomes is, I mean, I think he should win MVP at this rate. He's a better quarterback now than he ever has been. I know Tony Romo made it a bigger deal, but he made a pretty decent point. Like him being hobbled a little bit made him be a better overall quarterback in that game. And I think that kind of spoke doom for the Bengals in the end a couple weeks ago. So
I think the refs more so spoke doom.
Sure, we can get into that. But Mahomes played great. And I think he's he doesn't even have as many weapons really as he's had in previous years. And I think he's a better quarterback now than he has been. So
well, it's kind of the beauty of what happened when Matthew Stafford lost Calvin Johnson and then had the variety of more average or lesser known weapons.
Solid. Nobody's terrible out there by any means, and they do things well, and they're all very fast. I'll give them that. But I think, he became a better quarterback because they couldn't rely on Tyreek Hill. So yeah, it's impressive. I think he's the best player in the Super Bowl.
I'm going to go with Travis Kelce next.
This is his weapon that he still has.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when it was unguardable when you had to watch Tyreek Hill over the top and underneath, it was Travis Kelce, but Travis Kelce is still making it work all over the field. And I saw a stat that Field Yates posted basically that he's now played in 17 postseason games in his NFL career, the equivalent of a whole regular season, and his PPR in a fantasy league basically for those 17 games would be record setting. Is what I saw. I saw he had like 154 catches, like 1,600 receiving yards, and like 19 touchdown catches in the postseason.
Yeah, he's got more touchdown catches than games played.
Yes. So I think even you can rate him even higher when it comes to the playoffs. He's nuts.
Yeah, and teams they do different things with him when it gets to the playoffs too. They split him out a little bit more. I mean, he's always open. So
would you be surprised if he retired if they win the Super Bowl here? Would you be surprised?
Yeah, I think he's still got a lot more in him. And if
Mahomes, he's 33, so he's a tight end, so it's like okay.
Yeah, you're getting there, but yeah, I think he hasn't reached that point where like Gronk got, where he's just perpetually hurt yet. And while he has been banged up at times, he's not like he doesn't look like he just fought a war like Gronk yet. So give him a couple more years, he'll be there. But
it was like Aaron Donald was going to say he was going to retire after last year's Super Bowl, and then it was like rumors for a while. It's like
I think Kelsey. Maybe he'll think about it, but I really think if he's still going to be paired with Mahomes, I think he can keep setting records. So why not? So, I'm gonna go with his brother. I'm gonna go with Jason Kelsey at number 3.
Definitely a top center in the league, pretty much.
Definitely best center in the league, and I think he really, if you really watch the Eagles' offense and how it ticks, they couldn't do it without Jason Kelsey. He really, obviously he's making all the checks at the line, but he really allows them to do some of the interesting things they do with the run game, getting out on poles like no center can. It's really impressive watching what he can do. And he really kind of drives that quarterback run game too that they have with Jalen Hurts. So I will go Jason Kelsey here.
I am going to go with another Eagles offensive lineman, Lane Johnson.
Yeah.
Next, a healthy season for Lane Johnson, and once again, kind of proven that he is a top tackle to be reckoned with.
I would say he's the best right tackle in the NFL, fully healthy. Sewell actually might have an argument for him coming next year, but I think he's the best right tackle in the NFL.
Yeah, give Sewell time. Lane Johnson's been doing this for about 8 or 9 years now, but yeah, he's really good.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with Chris Jones here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he kind of wrecked the game against Cincinnati. I know we can talk about the refs wrecking the game, which they did, but beyond that, Chris Jones 2 massive sacks in that game. I think he's got to be big in order to get some pressure against a really good offensive line. So we'll see if he can get to Hurts. Not many teams have been able to get to Hurts. So, if Jones can do that, I think he can kind of turn the tide in that game.
Going to be key because it's going to be one of the best offensive lines that Chris Jones is going to be facing too for a while. So
by far, yep.
Next, I'm going to go with A.J. Brown. Just turned into an explosive wide receiver. I remember hearing his name called on draft night. Like, oh wow, that's a big one. I always thought A.J. Brown was just good when he was with Tennessee. So it was like, who knows if the Eagles obviously saw something different because he turned into arguably a top 5 to 8 receiver this year in the NFL.
We can talk about Isaiah's not here to sing or to talk about Tannehill. But I think that's definitely Tannehill's fault that he stinks.
He died on that Tannehill. I'm going to tell you.
He died on the Tannehill hill, and it wasn't going to work there. That's the reason A.J. Brown stunk.
Yeah.
So I agree. I think he's a top 5 receiver. I'd say. He destroyed the Lions, which
he destroyed a lot of teams this year.
A lot of receivers can destroy the Lions too, so it's not saying a lot. But he's great. I'm gonna go with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
MVP candidate. I don't think he'll necessarily win it, but he can beat you with his arm and his legs. I think he's way beyond what I thought he'd be at this point in his career, or in general in his career. I thought he'd be I thought he could be a starting quarterback in the NFL given the right system, but I don't I thought he'd be at best a top 20 QB. You know what I mean? Like in the 20 to 22, 23 range at best. Not a top 5 QB like he's been this year. So, yeah, I mean, he's just elite runner, and he's become in that offense an elite thrower in that offense. I mean, I don't know if he'd fit in every offense. I know he wouldn't fit in every offense, but I don't, that's fine. I mean, he's obviously got him to this point. They've been arguably the best team in the NFL at this point. So
I'm going to take the corner out of Mississippi State, former Detroit Lion, big hit play, Darius Slay.
okay.
Next, obviously he's 32 years old, so this may be one of the last years where, Father Time doesn't finally get to him, because he's always kind of been known to be bursted, gifted with speed, quick movement, just fluid. So I'm gonna say that he's the top secondary player in this game for both teams, and I think that I'm gonna say that pretty confidently.
Yeah, let me see. I don't have anybody else for a second. I mean, there's a couple guys that are up there, but not Slay's. These are the best DB in the game. In fact, DBs are not the best.
My next is the other Eagles, CJ Gardner-Johnson. That's my next secondary
player. James Bradbury, I'd even say, is up there, but he's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I'm gonna go with Creed Humphrey here. It's only his second season. He's already one of the best centers in the league. I think, obviously Jason Kelsey legs him out in this game, but I think Creed Humphrey's awesome. Yeah, I think he's Chiefs offensive line had to be addressed in the offseason. And obviously, he was already there, but him continuing to improve was a big part of that. And I think they have their offensive line, while I don't think it is at the status of the Eagles, I think it certainly has I think it's underrated overall.
I think it's good.
It's a top 10 offensive line.
Yeah, in the preseason, they were my number one offensive line.
Yeah, so. And I don't think I had them quite number one, but they definitely did a ton of work to get it to that point. And obviously, now it's paid dividends here in the Super Bowl. So they knew they had to keep Mahomes upright, especially with him losing a few weapons, and that's what they did. So
you like a good passing the torch story. Is this going to be like 2 years ago when you said it was Brady passing the torch to Mahomes, and now it's going to be Jason Kelsey passing the torch to Creed Humphrey?
I don't think it counts as for centers.
It's like long snappers. Are we?
It's not as cool. Yeah, I mean, it's like Vinatieri passing the torch to like Gostkowski or something for a minute. Like that's not as cool. That's not the same thing.
Oh man!
By the way, have you ever looked at Adam Vinatieri's social media?
No, is it like Josh Groban's elite?
The dude is huge. He is jacked. He's one of the biggest dudes I've ever seen in my life.
Who was the punter that was at? Was it Steve Weatherford? Was absolutely
yes, he's huge. He is massive as well. No, Adam Vinatieri, he works out a lot. I will tell you.
Like Kyle Farnsworth?
Yeah. I mean,
no way. He looks like Kyle Farnsworth.
Look, I'm serious. Look it up. It is impressive.
Kyle Farnsworth looks like a uterus now.
Yeah. Adam Vinatieri is huge. I'm telling you.
Adam Vinatieri now. Yeah. I mean, he looks like he's trying to play like linebacker in the XFL.
I mean, he's also like 50. He is 50. He turned 50 on January 3rd, and he's massive. Good for him.
His face looks fatter though too. So I saw there's a picture of him on the Pat McAfee show. It's like, who? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, but good for him.
Happens.
The guy's got big legs. I'm impressed. At the age of 50, he's just doing great. So,
I'm gonna go with Joe Thuney at 10.
Yeah,
another offensive lineman for the Chiefs that I really like.
I think this kind of gives you the theme of the game. Although, I don't think the Chiefs are going to run the ball necessarily. I think the O-line will determine. The trenches are going to determine this game.
Well, it won't be such a piss poor performance because their offensive line's healthy this year.
Yeah.
For Patrick Mahomes, like that one year when they had to face the Bucs, who are already like the best pass rushing team in the league, and now no offensive line.
It was not fair. It was actually hilarious
What
to
was
watch
what
him
was
run
the
around.
stats that like Mahomes ran for like 497 yards in that game? If you like,
Laterally,
yeah,
laterally and
like
backwards.
all over, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it was almost 500 yards, and I think he actually ran for like 50, like forward.
I know.
It was stupid.
Wild game, wild game. All right, we got next.
Um, I'm gonna go with Hassan Reddick here.
That's a good one. Yep.
Um, yeah, 16 and a half sacks this year. It's been pretty awesome. Pretty big game against the 49ers. I think he's probably the best. I don't know. I like TJ Edwards a lot too, but he's not at Hassan Reddick's level. And I mean, the 49ers could not block Hassan Reddick. So, it'll be a stiffer test in this game, but I think he can be a game wrecker in the same mold as, Chris Jones. So,
Yeah, that's a good one. Um, okay. Give me Dallas Goedert.
yeah.
I think I would argue he is a top 8 tight end in the league, maybe higher. But just I remember when they drafted him and they already had Zach Ertz, out of small school North Dakota State.
Mm-hmm.
There was a nice two-headed monster there at tight end, and it's kind of right around the start of wanting to run multiple tight end sets.
Yeah,
So
the NFL was not a 12 personnel league for a while there, and then the Patriots actually, when they had Hernandez and Gronk, made it that, but it took a while for other teams to be able to get two good enough tight ends to do that. So, yeah, I like Goddard a lot. Give me Frank Clark here. He, for whatever reason, he just shows up in these big games, and I'll give it a little bit of Michigan bias here, but he is really, I mean, again, I think the big test is going to be if they can get to Hurts here. So if they can get to Hurts in this game, I think he's going to, obviously he's going to be the guy getting there, along with Mike Dana, a couple Michigan guys there. They had some big games against the 49ers, so I'll go with Frank Clark.
I'm tempted to take another Michigan guy with Brandon Graham here, but I think I'm actually going to take Fletcher Cox in the middle. Not
Yeah.
quite the defensive tackle that he was last couple of years. You can see the decline a little bit, but he just fills the middle so well, stays in his lane.
Well, I
Great
think they can
runs.
keep him fresh because they're loaded up front.
Yeah, they have
So,
so many defensive linemen. It's
yeah. Um, how many are we doing?
53.
All
We'll
50.
see.
We're feeling an entire roster here.
We'll see. I was gonna try to play it by ear. I feel like if there's still like a solid 25 players, I kind of figured at least 25, but
Okay, that's fine. I'll go with Devontae Smith here.
yeah.
Obviously, he's number two to AJ Brown, but I mean, he had 95 catches this year. He's been pretty darn good. Pretty big season overall. I think, former Heisman Trophy winner. Maybe you're like, oh, I don't think he's ever going to be like a just physically imposing, but he is a pretty masterful route runner, and he's one of Hurts' favorite targets. So we'll go with Devontae Smith.
A good one.
Especially if they try to bracket AJ Brown, I think he could have a big game.
I would. He definitely is a dark horse. I'm not like jumping out and being like, that's my guy who I'm picking to like win Super Bowl
No, he wouldn't be
MVP or
my
something.
pick, but I think he could have a big game, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
would not surprise me if he's got like 150 yards and a touchdown. And it's like, shoot, he was
Does he
like,
just pull like a Deion Branch or something?
yeah, like, I mean, no one would have picked Deion Branch before that game, and he went nuts. So you never know.
It's a good one. All right. I'm gonna go with let's go with Zeus Jr., Orlando Brown
Okay.
Jr. Obviously already with his second team. He was drafted by the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
Son of the late great Orlando Brown. But yeah, I just think he's another really reliable tackle. So a huge piece to the Kansas City offensive line that is now healthy to take on a very good defensive front for the Eagles.
Yeah.
They'll need all hands on deck, that's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, are we talking like pure importance? Or are we talking like best? Because like, I don't know. Because there's somebody here that I'll pick CJ Gardner-Johnson here. This is a guy who I kind of hope the Lions get this offseason. But I mean, I think he's just a big part of what they can do, maybe possibly to mitigate Kelsey a little bit here. I think he was a great signing by them, one of the better signings of the offseason, and he kind of paid some dividends, so I'll put him here.
Yep. Not enough people talk about him as a linebacker, but Nick Bolton, for the Chiefs, has had a really nice year. I think is he only in his second year out of Missouri, and I think he was like a third-round pick. But yeah, Nick Bolton, reliable tackler, and I think needs to have a strong game there in the middle of the defense.
Yeah, if he doesn't, they're gonna struggle.
I'll
go with TJ Edwards here, another linebacker, but for the Eagles out of Wisconsin. I remember him at Wisconsin, and he was terrorizing. But he's underrated. Maybe he is. I think he's very fast. He's having one of his better years. I think he'll probably be a free agent this next year, won't he? So that would be that'd be an interesting look there as well. But
we don't have the money the Bears do. That's the problem.
Yeah, I don't think they have the money for it. But yeah, he's underrated, and I think he's one of the better linebackers in the league for sure.
A good one. I'm going to take another beast for the Eagles in the middle, and that's Javon Hargrave.
Yeah,
plays alongside Fletcher Cox. Maybe that helps inflate a little bit, but both those guys are menacing in the middle.
I'll take Miles Sanders.
Okay.
I know they do it. They've got 3 guys that really get carries and 4 if you count Hurts, but I mean he's the best of them. They all kind of bring something a little bit different to the table. And I know what's his name? Probably had a better game last week, Gainwell, but and he was. I feel like I always end up with Kenneth Gainwell in my fantasy team, and he just doesn't do anything. And then he has like 4 games in a row where it's like, oh, that guy's really good, and then he just doesn't do anything again. So he's kind of useless as far as fantasy football goes. But yeah, Miles Sanders, I think is I think he could have a big game. So
one of the key free agent pickups for the Eagles this year to help build their success from last year's James Bradbury IV. So I'm going to go with James Bradbury IV here. Playing corner opposite Darius Slay, and both of them had really solid years. So I think he deserves to be somewhere in this range here.
What number is this?
23.
I'm going to go with Isaiah Pacheco.
Ooh.
I know it's a little dark horse, but I'm like thinking of importance here. He is probably the best overall back that they have right now. 7th round pick, probably the best 7th round pick, maybe of the last year's draft. Out of Rutgers. I think he had a big long touchdown called back last week too. If the Chiefs are able to run the ball at all, which I don't really think they will be able to, but if they are able to run the ball at all, I think he's going to be a big part of that, obviously. So I like him. I've always liked him. I thought he was underrated in college.
Maybe this is a little bit of a dark horse too. But this guy came out of absolutely nowhere. It is Jordan Mailata.
Yeah. He's been really
good for the Eagles. I mean, literally played in a rugby league, and then NFL scouts and executives saw video clips of him playing rugby, and they had him try out an international player pathway program.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a college listed, and he was drafted as one of like the last 10 picks in the 2018 NFL draft, the 7th round. And here he is as a starting tackle, opposite Lane Johnson, one of the best offensive lines in football. So is a monster at 6'8", 365. Can you imagine playing rugby against that? That'd be insanity.
No, you just get out of the way. And
I'm just leaving. See ya. It's
like lay on the ground and hope he doesn't land on you. I'm gonna go with Brandon Graham here. I go back and forth, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, but I think they're both kind of the same guy at this point. Graham, even at his age, is just really impressive still. He can wreck drives. I don't know if I'll say he'll wreck an entire game, but they've definitely put him in big pass rush situations, and he still gets to the quarterback, and he's still a big time player. He can't necessarily do it as consistently, play in, play out throughout a whole game as he used to. But that's why they went out and got a bunch of defensive linemen, so that he doesn't have to do it every single play. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Brandon Graham here.
Give me Justin Reed. Not quite the player he was with the Bengals. I feel like he's maybe the defensive scheme hasn't adjusted to it as well. Because he was a dominant top 3 or 4 safety in football when he was with the Bengals. I think now he's probably still top 10, but this seems like maybe he's got to adjust yet a little bit to the Kansas City defense.
Yeah, but I mean, filled in for Matthew.
Mm-hmm.
He's as good as Matthew, so I think he got what, and he's a backup kicker, so they got some value.
It's true.
There.
I did see that.
There. He's an excellent kicker.
If it comes down to it, and like Harrison Butker goes down, then
if Butker goes down, they have an option there.
Are they going to go Townsend or are they going to go?
I think Reed? They'll go with Reed. I'm telling. They did earlier this year. They he went in. Oh man. I'm gonna go. Give me MVS.
All right.
I am a
speedster.
Yeah, I would go with Juju, but MVS was really freaking good last game. So I'm gonna go with the hot hand here.
Play with the high end, yep. I mean, I've been laying that in my thoughts too. So
MVS, I almost won $700 because MVS.
Really?
I missed. So I had this crazy parlay going. I only put $10 down. And the reason I missed is because Joe Burrow didn't throw 2 touchdowns. That is the only reason I missed.
That's almost a surefire that he throws 2
touchdowns. I had him running one in. I had everything. I had everything going on. And that's why I was praying for overtime. Just really praying that was going to happen. But MVS was awesome. He had to get me like 65 yards, and he went off in that like one drive really. But he's a big speedster. Doesn't really do much other than run very fast. But that's kind of what the Chiefs offense is right now. So
I'm gonna take Josh Sweat next off the edge for the Eagles again. Part of this just copious realm of defensive linemen that they can throw out there at any given time. And so I think Josh Sweat's athleticism is going to play a huge part in this.
Give me Landon Dickerson.
Yep, that's right.
Pro Bowler. He's a guard, so you don't really talk about him. I know you probably, it's just not something you talk about, but he's pretty important to that team. He's one of the best guards in football. So, and they're going to want to run the ball. So he's going to play a big part in this game.
Kind of going on again off hot hand, played really well in both playoff games up until this one for the Chiefs. That's Trent McDuffie, the rookie.
Yes.
Out of Washington. He was not anything special during the regular season. Got burned quite a bit. I think a lot of Chiefs fans will tell you that he was a little bit of a liability in several games, but these playoffs have rolled around. It's like maybe the experience is starting to adjust. He's the NFL speed this late in the season. And all these extra snaps that he's getting is only going to help him for his future. So I'm going to take McDuffie.
Yeah, and I thought he was really good in college. I mean, I know he played against Michigan, and Michigan barely threw the ball at all that game, and there's a reason because Washington had 2 NFL corners. So
yeah,
and because Cade McNamara stinks, but that's
they still blew him out.
Really shut people down. So
yeah.
I think he's impressive. I will go with L'Jarius Sneed.
Yep. Okay.
He's going to be back, big corner. I think he can, really. I know he got hurt last game, I believe, but I think he's going to be really important in this game. So we'll go with Sneed there.
You talked about Isaiah Pacheco, but I think Jet McKinnon was also going to have a big part in this game. So I'm going to take Jet McKinnon. Just in the passing game, he's been big on screens and flat routes, and I just think that he's got.
I think depending on how the game goes, one of the backs is going to be featured more. So it could go either way. Like if they're able to run the ball at all, I think it'll probably be Pacheco. But if it's McKinnon, that means it's more screens, sweeps, things like that for sure.
I think they're both getting eight to 10 carries at the very least.
Probably. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So I don't expect Mahomes to have to pass the ball 57 times. So
You wouldn't think. I think he'd love to though.
yeah.
What are we at now?
33. And I still feel like there's quite a few dudes. So that's why I'm kind of still
There's some
playing.
dudes. I'll go with Willie Gay Jr. here.
Okay.
I think he's just going to be super important in this game. He's really fast. That's probably his best asset. And I think that he definitely needs to have a good game in order for the Chiefs to win. So we're going to go with Willie Gay. I always liked him. I think he hasn't quite figured it all out yet, but I think he could be really good.
Yeah. It's was he out of Oklahoma?
No, Ole Miss.
Ole Miss. Who's the linebacker that year? Kenneth Murray? I think was the one out of Oklahoma that year.
Yeah.
They're the same draft. I always get them confused.
Same idea.
Yeah.
Potential, but hasn't quite figured it out.
Yeah. I'm gonna take Juju here.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think MVS is gonna be like that dark horse receiver for them, just because I think the speed's gonna play a part to at least keep the defense honest for over top.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Juju's enough of this guy that can run that corner route for you. He can run a quick slant for you, mini post, whatever. So I think Juju is at least going to come in handy with route running.
Yeah. Give me Avonte Maddox.
Really good corner for him.
Really good nickel. He might be hurt. Played last week when he was hurt, and I know he's in a boot, but sounds like he'll be back. So we're gonna go with Avonte Maddox here. He's gonna be important because they're gonna be a nickel all game against the Chiefs. So
yeah, I think this extra week of rest. I think I heard that he was planning on playing the last update, but
I mean he played last week with the bad ankle, so I would expect him. It's a Super Bowl. He's gonna give it a go. So
yep. Give me the right guard for the Kansas City Chiefs. I'll take Trey Smith here. Another guy that I actually was high on in the draft, and for some reason he kept slipping and slipping and slipping.
Mm-hmm.
And here he is still showing out. It turned into like the Lyle Collins sort of thing. Although Lyle slipped for other reasons. People thought he potentially murdered his girlfriend, right?
yeah, I mean, if you kill somebody or possibly kill somebody, then that you know
you're not even worth.
Ray Lewis, you're not. You're getting. It's going down.
Yeah. So it's just. I know obviously they dropped for different reasons. I think Trey Smith was more medically related, but he's carved out a nice career as a guard here in the NFL, and he's able to play tackle if needed.
Yeah. Give me Kaiser White. I think he's going to be really big in this game because I think they could. I mean, he's fast for a linebacker, and he's a former safety. I think they're going to have to put. He might be the matchup on Travis Kelce. Depending on the formation and what defense they're in. I think he could be somebody that might be able to not eliminate him by any means, but could match up all right against him. So
that's it. Who did you end up saying there?
Kaiser White.
Okay, yeah. Let's look at this depth chart again.
We covered a good chunk.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely not going to be. It'll be pushing it to get to 50, I think, but I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to take I think it can be kind of like a Swiss Army knife in this game. We're going to use Mecole Hardman.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I only went to like top 35 and he didn't make my list, but I love Mecole Hardman. I think he could be such a game breaker depending on like returns. He could have a huge game receiving depending on if they don't account for him. Like he is so fast. Like
that's what I said. They're going to do jet sweeps. I think in this game they're going to run a trick play here and there. You got to utilize the speed, open them up a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. Let's see here. Give me George Karlaftis here.
Yep, here's my next one.
Yep. He was probably like the fourth or fifth, maybe sixth edge, I would say, rated in the draft this past year. Really good career at Purdue. Didn't have the kind of, breakout year as some of the other edges that were drafted ahead of him, but he's probably a better run defender than a lot of them. So I think that's going to matter. And I think he eventually could work his way into like a top tier pass rusher guy. So we'll put Karlaftis there.
All right, give me another former Lion and Ndamukong Suh. Fresh legs. He's only played
I forget about him so much on this team because he's just there.
But he's been good every time he's out there.
Really good. He's a game wrecker sometimes.
And again, he's rested. He had pretty much 14 weeks of the season to just chill,
just hang out. Exactly.
Yeah, maybe work out a little bit here and there, eat some extra bowl of cereal. But and Ndamukong Suh's been a game changer. Just rotating with Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave. It's been huge.
Yeah, I agree.
We might be able to push it to 50. Let's work on that.
Okay, I'll just go with Andrew Wiley. I think he's the worst offensive lineman on the Chiefs. But
it shows how good the Chiefs are.
But he's pretty good. He's not bad. I think he's definitely their problem spot if they have one. And that's, I think he might be picked on in this game. So, do they help him a little bit with the back or with a tight end a little bit? We'll see. But if he has a good game, if he really holds his own, then I think that'll go a long way to the Chiefs being able to win. So
we can dig it. Is it wrong that I want to take Harrison Butker already?
No, he could matter, especially in this.
I think he's going.
We've seen a lot of kickers matter in the Super Bowl.
Even though, was it the Pro Football Reference already leaked the game script?
Yeah, it was 37-34 in the end.
Yeah. So people are going to go nuts if that game starts out 10-0 Chiefs, because that's exactly if the first quarter's over and the Chiefs are up 10-0. People are going to be like, "All right, that's it."
I should have thrown some money down and seen if that happened.
Just in case, right?
Just in case, right? I don't know. Go give me Marcus Epps.
Yep.
Strong safety, solid. It's good in the run game. Not the best cover safety in the world, but so we'll see if they lift him at all for some extra corners. But I think he's solid. So
good one. All right, give me probably the weak link on the Eagles offensive line too, Isaac Seumalo.
Yeah, I think he's solid though.
Yeah, I it's weird saying weak link, like we just had Wiley and Seumalo, but they're very. I'd be happy to have them on my team. It's like I'm not sad about that. So yeah, Seumalo's probably right guard for the Eagles, and he's had another solid year, but definitely I think probably the weak point, so to speak.
For sure. Give me Mike Dana here.
All right.
What did he have so far in his? Let's see here. He's got 5 sacks this year. I think he was a part of like 2 or 3 sacks last week. I don't know if he got credited for any half sacks or anything like that, but he has provided some really good pressure lately. And I think he's just kind of a complementary piece to some of those other pass rushers that they have, but he's in there a lot on pass downs because he's a good pass rusher. So he and Frank Clark coming off the edge at times, sometimes together. I think you'll definitely hear his name called a little bit in the Super Bowl.
That's kind of under the radar one. I like that. Yeah.
It was like 4 plays in a row, I remember, where it was like, and I know that the 49ers were really struggling with quarterback issues in that game, but there were like 4 plays in a row. It was Frank Clark, Mike Dana, Frank Clark, Mike Dana. And it's like, oh my goodness, like they just couldn't block. And it kind of led to Brock Purdy getting immobilized for the most part. So
I think it would be a disservice to leave off this list Juan Thornhill, free safety for the Chiefs. Not outstanding, definitely reliable. Yeah. I think would you take Thornhill or Tracy Walker? It's like I think it's the same. It's a fair trade, right? They're
Same
about the
guy.
same.
Same guy.
Yeah.
Um.
Yeah, we're getting there. It's only 3 more that we need.
Yeah, give me Jalen Watson because he's going to play quite a bit. He's a rookie. I think he's had ups and downs certainly. This is kind of a huge test here, so he's definitely going to play. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to go. We'll see. McDuffie's kind of proven himself a little bit here lately. Watson not as much. So we'll see what happens here.
Yeah, maybe another cop out, but I'm going to take Jake Elliott because again, it's going to matter.
Okay.
So I apologize for taking the 2 kickers, but I think it's gonna. I think this type of game could really come down to those legs.
I think so too.
All right, 49 here.
I hate this guy because I think he stinks. But give me Quez Watkins.
He's a one-trick pony, that's for sure.
He's a one-trick pony, but you know what? That trick is impressive.
Speed.
And if it, I could totally see, him breaking out, not necessarily having a big game, but just like a massive, like 60-yard catch, where it's like, oh my, and it changes the game a little bit. So I'll give Quez Watkins his, I'll give him some credit here. He's making the list.
Okay.
I think he's like MVS, but he's worse. MVS is a better receiver than Quez.
So this could be controversial for 50, but I think 50, you got to kind of leave that 50 as controversial. Leave people hanging and want more. I think Boston Scott is going to matter more than Kenneth Gainwell in this game.
I love good Boston Scott.
Boston Scott's played well in the last couple of games, trying to keep that mojo going.
You could have gone with either Gainwell or Scott there, I think, but
yeah, but there's a prop. I saw a prop bet actually out there, basically saying Boston Scott over under 8.5 yards. I'm like, dude, I'm taking the over. He's touching over 8.5 yards this game.
You could have a 10-yard carry on his first
kick. Why was it set at 8.5?
I would take that right now. That is awesome.
I was watching Bally Sports and they do like all their bets and stuff, and they're going through some of the prop bets, and I was just, yeah, you take that one for sure.
I'd throw $10 at that right now.
Yeah. Any other names that just jump out at you that you were kind of leaning for?
Derek Nottie, I think, needs to be thrown out there. Kadarius
Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
What's that?
Clyde Edwards-Helaire, maybe.
Yeah, CEH definitely. I know he's kind of fallen down the depth chart a little bit, but if I think the Chiefs, the way they do the running game is definitely like riding the hot hand. So if he starts off well, he you could definitely throw him out there.
And legitimately, anyone else on that Eagles front line, Jordan Davis, Robert Quinn, Linval Joseph,
any of those guys,
like those, it's just crazy.
Yeah, all of them could have made the list. Every single one of them could have made the list.
The fact that we could have literally listed like 10 defensive linemen for the Eagles in this top 50 is absurd.
It's ridiculous. Kadarius Toney, I think, was an option. I know he got hurt. He's always hurt though, so that's why I didn't really list him.
You could talk about the punters, Tommy Townsend. Brett Kern.
Kern's good. Kern's good. Yeah, you definitely could talk about him. I think this game. There's a couple other guys out there.
Pascal's going to matter in this game, I think.
Yeah, definitely will. There's probably
like Burton
35 to 40. He's probably he could. I think he's he definitely matters. I think there's 35 guys that on each side that certainly are going to factor in, probably maybe even a major factor possibly in these games.
A lot of Chiefs fans like Brian Cook at safety too.
Yeah, I like Cook a lot. He had
Leo Chenal is in this one. You got I just Reed Blankenship, one of the few white secondary players in the league.
Yeah,
he's been good.
The fact that we got pretty far down this list and weren't struggling tells you these teams are really good.
I know, like usually in a lot of others, like, oh, now we're getting like the
I'm like, we're at 22 and this list stinks now. But now it's like 22. I'm like, all right, I'm naming off some guys.
We just nailed 50 guys that like will matter in this game.
Will matter in this game for sure.
So let's talk about the game. What are your expectations for this outcome? What are the key factors?
I mean, if the Chiefs are able to stop the run, I think that goes a long way. I think that is the game, in fact. If the Eagles can run the ball, it takes a lot off of Hurts. Not that you can't throw the whole game on him, but the reason he's an MVP candidate is because he's able to everything's built off of that run game, whether it's him or, Gainwell, Scott, Miles Sanders, like those guys, everything is built off that offensive line with them. And then easy throws for Hurts, deep shots. He's not in the RPO game, but he's not a sit back there, read coverage, pick you apart guy yet. He might get there, and he's made some strides in that in that type of stuff. But if it becomes a drop back game for the Eagles, I don't think they're going to be successful. And if you're the Chiefs, it's can you run the ball just enough to keep them honest, and then pick your matchup at that point on offense. If you get Kelsey open, obviously you're going to take that, and then you probably feel pretty good about a lot of the matchups with 2 weeks to prepare. You got to figure Andy Reid's going to have some good stuff dialed up. So, but I think it comes down to if the Chiefs can stop the run enough, I think they'll win. If the Eagles are able to consistently churn out 3, 4, 5 yards at a time, I think it kind of tilts in the Eagles favor there. So
And I was going to ask you, like, do you expect Jalen Hurts to run more in this game, or do you expect him to sit back in the pocket if time allows?
I think he's going to run the ball. I think they'll try to run the ball more.
And I think they have to. I mean, they don't have to, but I think I found they've had a lot more success offensively with Jalen Hurts, especially because this is the last game. He's gonna have all the offseason.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, he's had 2 weeks to make sure he's healthy. I know he had the injury issues earlier,
and he's gonna have all offseason to recover for whatever happens.
Yeah, you just let it all hang out at this point.
All the bruises and bumps, let him heal offseason.
Yeah,
I think now is the time to be aggressive.
Yep, I agree. You're not trying to hold back on anything. And I think they have some favorable matchups up front with some of the run schemes they can do to get Hurts involved. I don't know. I think they're going to be able to run the ball some. The question is how much, and is Hurts able to hit those 4 or 5 big plays downfield that they'll need to keep him honest enough. That's the game right there, in my opinion. It should be fascinating. I think both coaches. I mean, Sirianni is a weirdo, and he's actually maybe even more of a weirdo than I realized. With he's kind of weird on the sideline too, but he is a good tactician, and he dials up some interesting stuff, and he deserves some credit, a lot of credit for this team. I know who was it who was crapping all over him. He had an interview who basically was like, yeah, I mean, he's basically driving a Lamborghini right now because he's got a bunch of veterans and, QB coming into his prime. And he's probably right to an extent. But I think he deserves some credit because he's a good tactician, and it should be interesting. He and Reed back and forth. It'll be cool.
I think for me, obviously, we talked about how they were the number 1 and number 2 players on our list, but Kelsey and Patrick Mahomes have unmatched chemistry. And I think they're just able to threaten pretty much every area of the field. A lot of the work is done short, intermediate, down in the middle. So I think that means that the safeties, linebackers, and we talked about them on our list. I think all of them made the list except Reed Blankenship. But I think TJ Edwards, Kazir White, CGJ, and Marcus Epps, those guys are going to need to have huge games along with
the problem is they all made the list, but they're all in the 30, 25 to 30, maybe even lower.
It's not their strong suit. Their strong suit is definitely the 10 guys that can rotate up the front any given moment to stay healthy. But the offensive line for the Chiefs is going to have the work cut out for them. Obviously,
if they give him time, they're going to score points, in my opinion. If they give him enough time.
I think they're going to be able to at least give him time, and not throughout the entire game, but enough where it doesn't seem impossible that the Eagles will have to score more than 31. I think it's almost a gimme that the Chiefs can put up 31 in this game.
I think you can probably chalk up 4 touchdowns some way.
Yeah, and it just
Uh,
seems like Bucker's good for one or two. Like
I
I don't
think I think the game would have to be high scoring for the Eagles to win.
I think the other thing that jumped out at me was somehow against the Bengals, who to me best receiving trio in football, and to me
Yeah.
it's not even close. But the quartet of Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson,
hmm
Joshua Williams, Brian Cook, like
hmm
that secondary was huge against those three guys.
I
They
think a
just
lot of it had to do with the pass rush that they were able to get on Burrow.
Mhm.
But yes, they played great. I mean, that was the best game I'd seen them play. So
Because they played well. I think that means Devontae Smith and AJ Brown may not be the exact factor, which factors in the one-trick pony Quez Watkins and Zach Pascal, who probably was coming up on the list if I had to
yeah, he was
guess.
probably 52 or three,
Yeah,
and Dallas Goedert too. I think that
yeah.
matters
So
a
that
lot.
I did kind of space out Goddard, but that's going to matter. Obviously, we talked about L'Jarius Sneed, and even when they moved back outside as he slid into the slot to cover Christian Kirk, Sneed will take on that best receiver if they need to, wherever he may be.
No
Sneed is
doubt.
not Sneed is not Sauce Gardner. He will move across the field to stay on a guy. So,
Yeah, no doubt. And
um,
I just think if the Eagles can run the ball though, like with any consistency, they're going to stick with it, and it's going to be kind of like they'll grind it out if they need to, um, kind of
time
like they did
possession is
against
going
the
to be big in this
Giants.
game. So if they can grind it out with the clock on the run game, it's huge.
Exactly. If they can keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands, I think they will. I just don't know if they're gonna be able to. I think the Chiefs' idea is gonna be, hey, we got to get as many negative plays as possible, and if they're able to turn out, a drive or two, that's okay. But if we can keep them behind the sticks, they're not gonna be able to run the ball as much, and then we put the ball in Hurts' hands. And if it's a drop back game, I'm telling you, it's not gonna go well for the Eagles. Um, the Chiefs can do it either way. I mean, they're more well rounded. They're definitely a pass first team, but they're definitely a more well rounded team. They'll run the ball if it's there, but they don't. If they got to drop back and throw, they'll do it. So
This is also likely Eric Bieniemy's possibly his last game with the Chiefs. There's been rumors that he may take on a different offensive coordinator position to prove that it's him. It's
yeah,
not. He has a play in what happens, and he's effective. And if he's effective as an offensive coordinator elsewhere, that'll put him in running, I think, for head coach jobs in the future.
because I think his whole thing has been like, he's been up for, he's interviewed for head coaching jobs
Like the last 3 or 4 years.
probably 2 or 3, 4 years exactly, and he's not gotten them, and maybe that was what was holding him back. Um, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I even as the Lions fan before they got Dan Campbell, I wanted them to possibly take a look at Bieniemy. So I think, yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't know. I don't know how much is Bieniemy and how much is Reed. I really don't. But Mahomes speaks highly of Bieniemy, so I think that he probably has a good amount of control there. So
Yeah. So predictions. What are you thinking is the final outcome of this game?
Chiefs, 41-30.
That's a good prediction. I actually was thinking 37-31
Yeah.
Eagles.
Okay.
And
I
like I
think they
said,
run the ball enough then.
yeah, I think the 37 was scripted on the Pro Football Reference. I just don't know about the 34.
But just not one less
I
field goal.
think I think Butker's gonna miss a field goal, right? So that's
Okay.
gonna affect that.
Well,
It's
they
not
can't
by
make
any
it seem
means.
like
Just
it's scripted
sometimes
because
the
they're already
script
getting a
goes a
bunch
little
of
off
crap
script.
because they think it's scripted. So they can't make it seem like it. So they'll be
Yeah,
close.
one field goal is gonna really matter. I mean,
Yeah.
so I think he's just gonna kind of push it left a little bit, and I think
Mhm.
that's gonna. And plus, you can't. The script can't always be. Some of these kickers just can't purposely miss slightly. They're not that accurate, right?
Right.
Just the
Right.
way it is. So sometimes you have to go a little off script, and they're going to try to get it back into position for him to kick that field goal to get there. But I don't think it's happened. So
Yeah.
37-31. I'm going to sound like Arian Foster a little bit here and just kind of sacrilegiously talk about how the game is scripted. But I just, yeah, I think it's going to be a good game regardless. I
I'm
think it's going to
excited.
be,
It's gonna be really fun.
I think it's an explosive game. And I think that if you're a betting person, you take the over that they have this set on. I think
I think
because
the
I'm not
overheads.
sure where it last was set, but
I don't know.
like I
Look,
said, both you and I have it going 68 points or more. So
I think it's let's see. I'm curious actually now. The over under, this is on MGM. It's 50 and a half
oh dude, take the over.
by far. It's not even
Hey,
close. I would
I
take
mean
the over all
you've
day.
got it at 71. I've got it at
The
68.
odds are good on either over and under though, because the odds are minus 115 for the over, minus 105 for the under.
Yeah, it's
Eagles
gonna
are
be a game.
favorites, so the
But
spread's only 1.5. The spread's only a point and a half though. So
it is hard for me though to picture like I think I have like this deja vu stuff that happens every once in a while. Like it's really weird to the point of I was meeting someone to like hand off Sailor like she's some kind of drug basically, but to watch her for a little bit while I was doing other things. And I was waiting for that person to show up in a parking lot. And I was sitting in the back seat of my car, feeding her a bottle from her car seat, waiting for that person. And I'm like, you know what's weird? I feel like a couple weeks ago I like dreamed that I was sitting in the back seat of a car feeding Sayla. Like I don't really have dreams, but until like I'm in that moment where I'm like,
yeah.
I feel like I thought of this somewhere, or like saw this image somewhere. So I don't see going to that my point, I don't actually see Jalen Hurts holding some kind of trophy. I do, maybe because I've seen it before, see Mahomes holding a trophy.
I just
Um, so maybe because I can't quite picture it in my head, anything other than Nick Foles holding something for the Eagles and Doug Peterson, and now that they're not there, I don't see Sirianni delivering a great post game speech. He's not a speech guy as we've seen. Um,
his daughter's better on the podium than he is, and she's like 6.
I've
So
not heard her speak.
well, no, it was also really awkward. They did
What
she was just
wasn't
up there.
awkward with a Sirianni speech,
Well,
really?
but then there was really awkward with the one of the questions on media day this week was so what who on the Eagles would you not let your daughter or let date your daughter? And he was like, well, she's 6, so this is weird.
What are they? What are
And
they?
then the reporter like was ushered out. It was weird after that.
They had to have done their research. Sirianni's like a 40-year-old man. How is he going to have a much older daughter than that?
Exactly. He's one of the younger guys in the league. And they act that's what that was like the first question. He's like,
At the
she's
very oldest, a daughter's like 12, and that's still weird.
yeah,
So
and he's like, she's 6. This is strange.
that's funny that the reporter got ushered out, though.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, dude, no more questions from you.
Wow.
That's
Dang.
pretty bad.
I mean, it's bad, but like, no mercy has
Yeah.
begun.
Well, you
All right.
can't ask those kind of things anymore. Or
No,
ever, actually.
it's a trigger ever. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So I don't know, man. It'll be a fun game. We'll talk about it next week, and like I said, we'll also cover some Michigan positions since
yeah.
Y2K. But it's been
Yeah.
fun. We'll see you
Hopefully
next
Michigan
week.
basketball keeps winning games. If they keep winning
They're
some
playing
games,
very well. It seems like
then
they've got
maybe we
something
get
down.
some March
And did you
Madness.
see that this time last year they also were 14 and 10.
They
So it's like
were, but they didn't
not
have
really
any
out of the water.
losses
And they
to
still made it to the Sweet 16. So
they didn't have any losses to Central Michigan last year, though. That's what's killing them right now.
at home. At
At
home.
home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
A
rough.
bad Central Michigan team, mind you.
Yeah, I mean, and Imani Bates destroyed us, and he's Eastern Michigan. But
Yeah, but we won the
it's
game,
we
luckily.
won the game, but it
So
was barely, right? That was a close
it was
game.
barely, it was barely, but you got to win those games. That's where they're missing right now. So even if they had beaten Iowa or Virginia, they'd probably be
I
in
did feel
right
like
now.
Nebraska was one of the guaranteed wins though in this. The next couple, like Indiana, they've got to play yet. I'm like, ooh, that'll be rough.
Yeah, if they win, but if
They beat Indiana
they
though.
beat Indiana at home on Saturday, they are firmly on the bubble. Like right, they're a bubble team at that point. If they
Yeah.
lose, then we're stuck
But at
again.
least now I think they've put themselves in position to at least get NIT, right? They're not
They
even
are in
CIT anymore. They're
position to
probably
be in
NIT.
position, is what I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
So if they win a couple more games in a row here, then yeah, they're probably in. Um,
I think if
so
they win two, they get in just because I think people
they
still
have
want
to
to see
win. They
them.
have to win 4 more games of the
You think they have
next
to win four?
4 more games of the next. I know we're changing segments here, but we might as well. Of their next games, let's see. Purdue destroyed Iowa. Nice. Um, They have how many more games? They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They have 7 more games. I think they got to win 4.
I think they can go 3 and 4 and get in.
With a win in the
I
Big
think
Ten
one of those
tournament.
wins has to be
With the win in
Indiana.
the Big Ten tournament, possibly.
Yeah, and I think one of those wins probably have to be Indiana, right? So
yes, so they got Indiana at home. That's probably needs to be a win. They get Wisconsin at Wisconsin, which they're a borderline tournament team too. So you feel like you got to win that. They get Michigan State at home. That'd be a big win. And they get Rutgers.
Rutgers has been pretty good this year.
They get Rutgers on the road, which is impossible to win there. And they get Wisconsin at home again. And they get Illinois on the road. They got a lot of road games. And they get Indiana on the road.
They had a lot of home games early on in the year. That's the problem.
Yes,
So they're
that's the
problem
problem.
all now.
Right. So if you beat, the way I look at the schedule, Indiana, this game's a winnable game. I mean, Indiana's good, but they're not, they're not incredible. You win that game, you steal one on the road from Wisconsin, you beat Michigan State, you could win 3 more in a row. Then you just got to win one of these next 4 after that, right? Or you could go 2-1 in the next 3, and then you just got to win 2 more. So I think it's doable. And they're playing better, but you got to win. You probably got to win 2 road games in order to do it, and that's not easy.
It was nice to see all 5 starters in double digits for points scored.
Yeah, I mean, they scored 93 points. That's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, so. Jet Howard and Hunter both put up some good numbers in that one. So
it should be fun. It should be cool. It could be an interesting stretch. They're definitely getting better. They're not in yet though. So I think if they get in, I think they could actually scare some teams too. Is the thing.
Yeah, they're a wild card. No matter what their record is, it seems like they still know how to get to the Sweet 16 every time. So
right. So it could be fun, but we'll see.
Yeah. All right, it's been fun. We'll see you next week then.
See you next week.